You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation will take the fall. The states, across the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Well, soldier, you made it. The 27th of December 1999, the final Monday Night Wrestling shows of the millennium. Tonight, Raw's in Greensboro, North Carolina, while Nitro takes place in the Houston Astrodome. We can expect more evil deeds tonight from Triple H and Stephanie as the McMahon-Helmsley era continues on Raw, while on Nitro, the NWO are going to do what they always do, try to take over the entire show. On Thunder this past week, the faction pointed out how their master plan's been in the works for a very long time. Bret and company laughed at the fans while showing clips from past incidents where the Outsiders helped the Hitman out. Not everything was covered, mind you, but it is a good place to start if you want to see how it all came together. Goldberg chased Bret out of the building at the end of the show. Bret got away, so Goldberg went after the powers that be's limousine. He tried to smash a window that wasn't gimmicked. So Goldberg's pride got the better of him, and while he did end up smashing through, he also seriously injured himself in the process. A shredded tendon in his forearm resulted in reconstructive surgery, so Goldberg is now on the bench. He's honestly very lucky because this could have been way, way worse. So once again, WCW's main event plans have fell through, and Bret needs to find a new opponent on the road to Sold Out 2000. All because Billy Boy thought he was playing the bonus stage from Street Fighter 2. This week's jam-up guy is Floyd the Barber. Floyd took his family to see a WWE house show in Huntsville while wearing his stinking rotten hyena shirt. He also took the jam to his local promotion ACW, so thank you Floyd. You are indeed a jam-up guy and a serious professional. Right then, let's go. The last time we'll ever need to check out Nitro's unopposed first hour. Praise the Lord. The commentators explain on Nitro that Scott Hall hasn't been seen since he took a beating from Bill Goldberg on Thunder. Billy Boy targeted each and every member of the NWO before chasing Bret out of the building. Schiavone also says that WCW Executive Vice President Bill Bush has had enough with the direction the company's been going in thanks to Russo and Ed Ferrara, so he sent in a letter saying that the Outsiders were going to get stripped of their tag team belts if Scott didn't appear in the Astrodome by 7 PM. Hall didn't show up, so WCW are holding a lethal lottery tag tournament that's going to start tonight on Nitro.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
For those who don't know, lethal lottery teams are drawn at random. We'll also see Jerry Flynn versus Bret Hart because, yeah, that's a match practically everyone wants to see. And that match was removed from the WWE Network version of Nitro along with 2 lethal lottery matches due to technical difficulties. Those technical difficulties being Jerry Flynn's wrestling abilities. Because the video quality I've got for those removed matches is pretty poor, I'll only cover the Bret match while briefly talking about the results of the tag team matches. Trust me, you aren't missing out on much. Champagne Kanyon came out to get a close look at the opening match, Bam Bam Bigelow versus Complete Hit Brand Knobs. Unfortunately, Kanyon's view was a bit obstructed seeing as the competitors went into the audience, and because WCW didn't send a cameraman in there, fans at home completely missed the action, as in we can't even see the finish. Brand Knobs won, but I couldn't tell you how he won, so sorry. Sid Vicious and Chris Benoit arrived at the arena. Tony Schiavone says this is the arena parking lot, but it's actually inside the Astrodome itself. More than half the stadium's been tarped off, so the boys have a lot of ground they can play in tonight. The NWO even brought a monster truck to the show. Speaking of which, the boys are giving James J. Bebe Dillon a hard time in the dressing room. Kevin Nash gives Dillon his tag team belt while Bret gives him a knee to the balls. Dillon tried to explain that he's only Bill Bush's messenger, but the NWO doesn't care. The boys then go out to get a good look at their brand new monster truck, and they also notice Sid's car parked just a few feet away. Nash tells Jeff to go get the gimmicks, so Sid has no idea that the NWO are going to vandalize his ride as he comes to the ring to cut a promo along with Chris Benoit. Sid said he, Benoit and Goldberg have decided to look after each other, seeing as the NWO's now back in town. The big man then announces that he's facing Bret Hart at Sold Out for the WCW Championship while Benoit is coming after Jarrett at the pay-per-view. Benoit versus Jarrett's going to be a triple theater match. The first bout's going to be a dungeon match, a match where the ropes are going to be removed, and if you leave the ring, you lose. The second bout's going to be a bunkhouse brawl. And the third bout, if the triple theater gets that far, will be a caged heat match. Not much is said here, but we assume it's a regular cage match. Meanwhile, the NWO's touched up Sid's Cadillac quite a bit with a nice paint job. There's Sid right there on the hood. Amazing work, guys. After a commercial break, Sid sees the vandalism, and man, Big Sid consistently has car trouble, doesn't he? The first Lethal Lottery match featured Buzzkill and Mike Rotundo taking on the Revolution's Dean Malenko and the Filthy Animals K-Dog. Of course, Konnan and Malenko couldn't get along and they started fighting very early in the match. Malenko did manage to lock in a cloverleaf on Buzzkill, but Jim Duggan appeared to hit Dean with his 2x4. Leia Meow and Asia had a little scrap as Buzzkill pinned Malenko, so Rotunda and Buzzkill advance in the tournament. Before the next commercial break, the NWO pulled the plug on the entire Nitro broadcast, and when the show comes back on, we see grainy footage of Scotty Steiner arriving to the arena. The picture gets a little better, and we can see Scott's in a wheelchair, so it doesn't look good for Big Papa Pump. The NWO, meanwhile, continue to wreck everything in sight. They aren't happy about Bill Bush's request earlier on, and so they're acting like a bunch of spoiled brats. Remarkably though, the powers that be are nowhere to be seen yet on this broadcast. Shane then had the distinct honour of fighting Tank Abbott in the middle of the ring. The match went on for about a minute and one punch knocked Shane out cold. Abbott was awarded the match and security had to run down to make sure Tank didn't do any more damage. Raw kicks off with a Triple H promo this week while Scott Steiner makes an announcement live on Nitro. Hunter reminds everyone that this is the last Raw of the millennium, but he also says what happened in the past doesn't matter anymore. It's all about the McMahon Helmsley era now, and fans are looking at the near perfect completion of the perfect plan. The plan becomes perfectly completed when Triple H wins the WWF Championship. Helmsley and McMahon are ordering Big Show to defend the championship tonight against the Game, and Hunter's gonna lay Big Show's big goofy ass down tonight on Raw. Stephanie takes the mic. The crowd chant a word that rhymes with glut but begins with an S, that word being slut. And Stephanie shocks X-Pac by booking him in a match tonight against Kane. You see, on Smackdown, the guys were talking about forming a union. Stephanie interrupted the meeting where she said she made a mistake listening to Triple H and the McMahon-Helmsley era was officially over. She booked the guys in the matches that benefited them, and it looked like she was actually really done with D-Generation X. And because she knew DX was going to come after her, she asked Kane to act as her bodyguard for the night. If Kane watched their back, then she'd grant him a match against X-Pac. Well, turns out Stephanie was lying and the McMahon-Helmsley era was still in full effect. However, she says on Raw that McMahons never break their word and therefore she is giving Kane the match he was promised. Helmsley says it'll be a lot easier for the guys in the back if they work with Stephanie and Hunter. Mick Foley was in the back trying to rally everyone up on SmackDown, but Mick learned a harsh lesson. So Mick comes out to address Stephanie and Hunter live on Raw. Foley says Hunter's right, there will be no unionizing because Mick's here all by himself, and he begins his promo by saying he once thought D-Generation X was pretty cool. It was nearly a year ago exactly when DX paraded Mick around the ring after he won the WWF Championship. Now though, DX are nothing but bootlickers. Road Dogg has all the talent in the world, yet he runs the Triple H as soon as Hunter tells him to. Billy Gunn's nothing more than an ass kisser, and X-Pac's now getting thrown to the wolves when he faces Kane. Triple H doesn't care about DX, he only cares about the WWF Championship, and if Triple H wins that championship then he's gonna leave the group because X-Pac, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn would be completely useless to him. When Mankind tells Stephanie to head to the back because Godfather's looking all his hoes, DX launch an attack, but Mick ends up getting saved by The Rock. The Rock and Saw connection cleared the ring out and Triple H says he's had enough. The WWF isn't big enough for Rock, Mankind and DX, so someone has to leave. Tonight, Rock's going to face Mankind in a pink slip on a pole match. The loser of that match will be gone for good. So either Rock or Mankind's going to get fired on Raw, and there's nothing the Rock and Saw connection can do about it. On Nitro, Scotty Steiner comes out to deliver some bad news. His brother hugs him in the middle of the ring before Scott makes his big announcement. With tears in his eyes, Scott says he just made his last pro wrestling entrance. The doctors have told Scott that his career's over. Scott needs another back surgery and a fusion, so that's it. Scott can no longer compete. Steiner begins crying as the crowd chant his name, and Scott says one of the toughest things about walking away from pro wrestling is not being able to do it on your own terms. But what's even worse than that is the fact that Scott will never be able to wrestle with his brother again. Scott asks the fans to say a prayer for him as he goes for his surgery in the next few weeks. And tell you what guys, Scott knocked this one out of the park. We all like to have a bit of fun with Scott Steiner promos, but top work here from Big Papa Pump. Very convincing indeed. Tori tells Kane that X-Pac actually treated her pretty well over the holiday season. She was even given the opportunity to leave when she wanted to, but a deal's a deal. Tori said she was safe, no harm came to her, and she's glad to be back with her big red boyfriend. She goes to get Kane a coffee because the devil's favourite demon just loves a good coffee on a Monday night, but she acts very strangely when approached by Test. She goes back to Kane. She said Test touched her, he looked at her strangely, he said weird things to her, and apparently Test violated Tori. Kane's reaction was, here, just listen for yourself. Kane busts into Triple H's locker room. Tori says again that Test violated her, and the pair want X-Pac taken out of this match tonight and replaced with Big Andy. Hunter agrees to the change, so we'll see that a bit later on. The NWO interrupts Scott Steiner next on Nitro, while over on Raw, it's Chyna versus Crash Holly. Crash talked a little shit about Chyna on Smackdown, so we have a 2-minute match here that Chyna totally dominated. Crash took the handspring back elbow and a DDT before Chyna showed off her new move, a sleeper slam. Chyna doesn't use it for very long though, and that's probably why you don't remember it. Chyna wins via pinfall, Hardcore Holly laughs at his cousin from the commentary table, and Raw continues on to its next match. On Nitro, Bret Hart and the NWO make fun of Big Papa Pump as they walk down the aisle. Bret tells Scott to get his stinking ass out of the NWO's ring. The Hitman says Scott was never that good anyway. He needs to get out before he gets seriously hurt, and Bret tells Big Papa Pump he'll probably need his wheelchair too as Kevin Nash and Double J launch it over the top rope. Bret says keep on rolling brother as Scott heads up the ramp, and yeah, what a bunch of dirty heel bastards. Bret says he understands emotions. We're looking at a great wrestler heading back up the ramp, but yeah, whatever. The NWO's way more important than Scott Steiner. Double J begins to cry, he can't bring himself to talk, and when Kev takes the microphone, some WCW PA jabroni tries to wrap the promo up. So Jarrett takes the guy out with a guitar shot, and Nash says, "Oh, it's a break, we'll be right back." After the commercials, Kevin gives a shout out to WCW President Bill Bush. He tells Bill to sit in his office in Atlanta and let the boys take care of the wrestling. The powers that be in the NWO have everything under control. Nash says the Outsiders will get their belts back and Scott will be here tonight in Houston. Kevin wonders how many Houston cowboy pussies can fit into one stadium. Jeff says this place should be called the Asshole Dome, and gotta admit that was a good one. And Bret reminds everyone that he's dominated Goldberg multiple times now. He's the only man to conquer Goldberg in multiple back-to-back matches. Double J says he's got all the stroke. He has no issues facing Benoit in this triple theatre match at the pay-per-view. And at the end of that match, the credits are going to roll and they're going to say Jeff Jarrett kicked another slapnut's ass. Sid drives his rental car down the aisle and he, along with Chris Benoit, get out of the vehicle while holding the NWO's baseball bats. They clear the ring out in good time, but then Kurt Hennig shows up to get a piece of Sid and Benoit. The commentators think that Kurt must have been sent down by the powers that be, but he ends up getting destroyed right here, and it ends with Hennig getting thrown on the car hood. Looks like Kurt just took a bullet for the NWO. A pre-taped video then airs that shows the revolution outside the White House beginning what they call their assault on America. Throughout this episode of Nitro, they hang around talking a lot of trash without actually saying anything, so you can easily guess the words coming out of their mouths here. Perry Saturn tries to catch Bill Clinton, but he's just a guy in a mask. And Shane says Saturn may be nuts, but he's still better than a typical American. Let's take a quick look at the Lethal Lottery matches that were removed from the WWE Network. Harlem Heat were fortunate enough to get paired up together, but they had to face Midnight and Lash LaRue. Booker and Midnight square off, and Booker didn't want to cause any harm to Midnight at all, and Stevie Ray got seriously annoyed at his brother. So Booker, Midnight and Lash all got hit with Stevie's trusty slapjack, and because LaRue fell on Booker, the team of Stevie and Lash won the match. I guess that means Harlem Heat is now officially done for. PG-13 also got paired up together, so I don't know guys, I think this Lethal Lottery may be rigged. These two took on Berlin and Rick Steiner. Berlin decided to leave his partner high and dry, but Rick still dominated Wolfie D and JC Ice. The commentators said Rick was taking his anguish out on PG-13 after Scott's announcement earlier on, and after dropping the boys on their heads a few times, the dog-faced gremlin won the match for his team. He continued to pull off awkward and dangerous moves after the bell, so the referee reversed the decision and he awarded the match to PG-13. Other moments removed from the WWE Network included another Revolution promo where they continued to run down the USA. Saturn gave Jim Duggan a pep talk before their Lethal Lottery match, and Kevin Nash also called Scott in hopes that the bad guy was getting ready for their match and he was heading to the Astrodome. Next up on Nitro, it's Bret Hart vs Jerry Flynn for the WCW Championship. On Raw, we've got a 4 corners tag team match. Flynn performs a snappy arm drag at the opening bell, but Bret beats his opponent senseless in the corner. He then rubs Flynn's face along the top rope before the action goes to the outside, and both men take bumps at the guardrail. Jarrett and Nash then show up as the two get back in the ring. Flynn takes a DDT and a Russian leg sweep. Lightning Foot replies with a spinning back kick, and that's when Kevin distracts the referee so Double J can attack Bret's opponent with a baseball bat. Bret applies the sharpshooter, fixing his hair before locking it in, and the Hitman successfully defends his WCW Championship. The NWO take turns at beating Flynn up after the bell, and Double J sprays NWO on Jerry's back. A terrible match here to be honest, but I would still like the WWE to upload it in better quality, you know? Kinda annoying that they removed full matches due to small visual or audio imperfections. Tank Abbott comes down after the bell and he punches Jerry in the jaw. I'm not a Tank Abbott fan, but this is something I can definitely get behind. On Raw, we've got Edge and Christian versus the Dudleys versus Godfather and D'Lo versus the Acolytes. Members of the Mean Street Posse served as the ring announcer, the referee, and the timekeeper respectively, and ring announcer Rodney announced the Acolytes as the greatest tag team in the WWF and the Posse's good friends as Farouk and Bradshaw made their entrance. This wasn't an elimination match and the entrances took up more airtime than the match itself. In the end, Rodney and Pete Gas attacked Bradshaw on the outside while Joey Abs gave a fast count when Farouk got pinned, so the Posse screwed the Acolytes over. The boys took a beating after the bell, and it does make you wonder why they try to pull a fast one on Bradshaw and Farouk. But well, there you have it. Kurt Angle takes on both Headbangers next on Raw, plus we've got Chris Jericho versus Al Snow. On Nitro, it's Norman Smiley and Asia versus Saturn and Jim Duggan. Duggan's wife and children were sitting in the audience for this one, and it began with Duggan attacking his own partner. You know, it would be nice if we had just one of these Lethal Lottery matches that had two teams that actually work together. We saw a beautiful Smiley slam from Screaming Norman, and he teased a big wiggle before delivering a suplex. We then got treated to a wiggle and a Smiley shuffle, so we're getting spoiled tonight, folks. Unfortunately, Saturn came back with a German suplex and a T-bone suplex. He then pulled off an elbow drop while totally forgetting that Norman's wearing a chest protector, so Norman tagged out and Asia came in. Saturn went for the DVD, but he couldn't do it. He told his Revolution teammate to tag out, but Asia stayed put. Asia hit Saturn with a crappy looking low blow, and we've been seeing this a lot in WCW recently, haven't we? Asia delivers a superplex, Duggan comes in with the Old Glory knee drop to his own partner, Smiley tags in, and the team of Asia and Norman win this tag team match. After the bell, Asia attacks Norman while Duggan attacks Saturn again. Absolute bollocks. Duggan celebrates in the ring with his family even though he lost, and he stomps on the Revolution flag as the crowd cheer with delight. Not a great match, let's move on. Triple H booked this Raw match behind Stephanie's back. Stephanie warned Steve Blackman on Smackdown that he's not to interfere in any more Kurt Angle matches, even though Blackman tried to explain that Kurt's facing giant robot monsters disguised as famous WWF superstars, but Stephanie didn't care. Triple H wanted to confirm that Blackman would not interfere in this match, and Stephanie said he wouldn't. The robot monsters are now wearing women's undergarments in an effort to up their disguise game, but Blackman knew what was going on here. He couldn't let his frenemy Kurt Angle take a beating from these two bionic bastards from space, so Steve came out to save the day once again. Mosh took a kendo stick right to the head, and this allowed Angle to keep his undefeated streak intact, something that annoyed Triple H a great deal backstage. Blackman stopped the post-match beatdown. Stephanie said Blackman was acting on his own accord again tonight, and yeah, Stephanie's right. Someone has to stop these robots, and we should all be thanking Steve motherfucking Blackman. Next we've got Chris Jericho versus Al Snow, and once again the entrances and pre-match promos were longer than the match itself. Al Snow says he's away from his home all the time, he doesn't get to see his family, he comes to work for these fans, but deep down it's the fans that Al truly hates. It's because of these people that Snow's losing his best friend, Mick Foley. Jericho comes out and he says he has a solution for all of Al's problems. All Al has to do is shut the hell up. The match gets underway and you already know what's going to happen here. It's the same story as last week and the week before. Jericho's about to get put away and Al even hits his finisher, but Chyna comes down and she hits Al with head. JR of course screamed, "Chyna just gave Al Snow head." I don't mind the WWF keeping things a bit mysterious, but this storyline hasn't advanced for 3 weeks. Jericho's still confused as to why Chyna's helping him, but don't worry, all will be revealed very soon. Mark Henry needs a favour from Harvey Whippleman. Big Mark can get into Mae Young's old, crusty, disgusting underwear tonight if Harvey goes out with Moolah on a double date. Harvey says there's no chance in hell he's going anywhere near this old rotten bastard, but Moolah puts him in a deadly earlock and Whippleman doesn't have a choice. They end up in a restaurant where Mark reads Mae a poem, and Whippleman decides to dazzle Moolah with his poetry skills too. He says, "Roses are red, violets are blue, lick the back of my plums and tickle my arse too." Next, we've got Mankind vs Rock and a pink slip on a pole match. On Nitro, Kidman gets a shot at Double J's US title. Jarrett goes down after a drop toe hold, but Kidman misses an elbow drop. He comes right back though with a head scissor takedown, but the chosen one drops Kidman on the top turnbuckle. Jarrett gets way too cocky and Kidman's able to pull off his corner tornado bulldog, but the back and forth action continues with a flapjack from the US champ. Billy performs a nice dropkick, but he gets catapulted out of the ring immediately afterwards. Nash and Bret Hart then show up holding their baseball bats, and Nash gets in a cheap shot before throwing Billy back in the ring. Jarrett performs a vertical suplex followed by a dropkick of his own that also looked good. And the moment the referee's back's turned, Kevin Nash is right there to help out his NWO teammate. Double J misses a teabag attack, but he's still able to put Kidman in a sleeper hold. When Kidman breaks free, he pulls off a BK bomb, and this gets followed up with a crossbody. This has been the best match on Nitro so far, and I'm really not surprised, seeing as the other match bookings on this show have been truly woeful. It ends with Nash pulling the top rope down and Kidman falls out of the ring. The filthy animals have seen enough, and so Konnan and company run down to get a piece of the NWO. One of the only times you'll ever see Bret Hart and Eddie Guerrero fighting each other. Back in the ring, Kidman reverses a powerbomb, as is tradition. He goes for the shooting star, but Nash smashes Kidman's shin with his baseball bat. Jeff puts Kidman away with the stroke, and Double J is still US champion. After the bell, the NWO give the animals a beating. Nash goes after Mysterio even though Ray's injured. Konnan tries to protect Ray, but it's no use. And we're falling back into familiar territory here, aren't we? I would have hoped this new NWO would have been given some sort of new direction, but so far it's very much the same as the last iteration. Over on Raw, Mankind said that he hates the fact that he's going through with this next match. He also admitted that his best days are behind him while The Rock has a very bright future. The thing is, in Mick's mind and in Mick's kids' minds, it would also be a terrible shame if Foley gave up his live stream. So in this pink slip on a pole match, Foley's going to do what he has to do. Mankind goes for the pink slip after a shoulder block, but that was never going to work. Rock tries after a clothesline, but again, it's going to take a lot more to win this match. DX are watching backstage as both men try to climb the turnbuckles, but both men get thrown off, with Foley's bump being pretty spectacular. Rock delivers a DDT, he goes to grab the pink slip. Al Snow shows up to hit Rock with head, and Snow then tries to revive his former best friend. Snow wants to mend some bridges, it seems, but Mick doesn't want to win like this. So he takes Al out instead of grabbing the pink slip, and he pays for this by taking a rock bottom. Snow heads back up the ramp. He says this is the last time he'll ever try to help Foley, but Mick is going to do what he has to do as he delivers a low blow to the People's Champ. Mick gets vicious in the corner, Rock gets up and he tries to fight back, but he takes a double arm DDT. Mick then pulls out Mr. Socko and the Rock takes the mandible claw. It looks like the Rock's going to get fire denied as the Great One fades away, so all Mick has to do is grab the pink slip. He heads up to the top turnbuckle. He's almost secured his job. Somehow Rock wakes up in record time and Rocky proceeds to smack Foley's head over and over again on the pole. Foley tumbles out of the ring, Rock grabs the pink slip, and that's it. The Rock wins the match, meaning Mick Foley has been officially fired. DX celebrated in the back as Rock heads up the ramp, and Mick takes his mask off in the ring to cut his final promo. He says there's never any shame in losing to The Rock, but there is shame in how this match came about. Foley says he was planning on retiring next year anyway, and this kinda sucks, but Foley's given the world a lot to remember him by. And anytime fans are bored, they can throw on a Mick Foley tape, and they can always remember Foley loved every minute of the last 15 years. Mick says fans shouldn't replay tonight's match. This was a farce set up by DX, and Foley ends the promo by telling the fans to have a nice day. Mick leaves the ring. He slowly walks up the ramp while the fans and staff around ringside give him a standing ovation. After a commercial break, Mick says goodbye to a few guys backstage, but don't worry, because we will see Mick Foley again very soon. The WWF presents another Four Corners tag team match, only this time it's an intergender match. On Nitro, the Total Package cuts a promo. I've no idea why the WWF booked this. Val Venus and Albert started the match off and Albert didn't tag out once. Other folks got in the ring while Albert stayed on the outside, but he officially didn't tag in anyone else. This meant he was able to get a sneaky win on Val Venus, the same guy who Albert started the match with. The only woman who got tagged in was Luna, and she was only in for like 10 seconds. It just kinda felt like everyone else would have been better staying in the back, and the time could have been used for a Venus versus Albert match. Mankind heads to the production truck where he thanks the staff for making him look good. He says goodbye to everyone before heading back into the arena, but a little later on, Triple H and Stephanie have Mick escorted from the premises. Mankind isn't allowed to be at shows anymore, and Triple H reminded him that he's fired and he's no longer welcome in the WWF. On Nitro, Tony Schiavone says Sting's going to be out for at least another month as Lex makes his way down to the ring. Non-Sting tells Mean Gene that the real Sting got his ass kicked back at Starrcade. He says the Total Package is the great physical specimen in sports today. He's 6'4", 275 pounds, 4% body fat and 100% nonce. Mean Gene thinks this guy's a complete idiot, but Luger says he and Liz are the greatest combination in pro wrestling today. The lights then go out while the sound of thunder plays in the arena, and when the lights come back on, there's a bunch of black roses sitting in the ring. Non-Sting gets spooked out a little while Liz tells him to catch a grip. Next on Raw, X-Pac takes on Jeff Hardy while Nitro presents another lethal lottery match, Ming and Fit Finlay versus the Harris brothers. Yeah, creative controls no more, they have left the powers that be, and we're now back to bikers who like people who just so happen to be named Michael. Meaning these guys are completely void of personality, but it's not like they had a personality to begin with. Usual stuff here. Every single lethal lottery match has featured a team that doesn't get along, and this time it's Ming and Finlay. The Harris brothers end up winning because Ming and Finlay get counted out. I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but this could be the worst pro wrestling tournament I've ever seen in my life. No one talks about it because no one was paying attention to WCW during this time period. After the bell, the lights went out and once again the mystery man launched an attack. This time though, he didn't get out of the ring quick enough when the lights came back on, and to me, that looks like Van Hammer. On Raw, Jim Ross tells us that Matt Hardy suffered a broken nose and a broken cheekbone after that unprettier he took last week from Christian. He's going to be out of action for a while, but his brother Jeff's taking on X-Pac tonight. Tons of reversals at the start of this one, but Hardy manages to dropkick his opponent. Hardy then delivers a hard baseball slide, but he misses a corkscrew moonsault. I really wish Jeff would have landed this because it looked phenomenal. Pac slams his opponent face first into the mat, Jeff then takes a suplex. X-Pac then misses a high risk move and Jeff's able to fight back with an Arabian press moonsault. The two end up on the outside where Jeff tries to run the barrier, but X-Pac delivers a punch to the midsection. Waltman then stalks Terry around and inside the ring, but she proves to be quite useful when Jeff pulls off poetry in motion. We then see the Swanton Bomb, X-Pac kicks out, Pac then delivers a low blow to Jeff, and an X-Factor puts the Hardy Boy away. These two work very well together, and we can only hope for a long pay-per-view match in the future, but easily the best match we've had on Raw this week. Back at the restaurant, some bozo calls Mark a loser, and the old bats take exception to this. They beat the guy up, and the fight must have made May feel a little frisky, because a little later on, we see her and Mark in bed. May smoking a cigar while Mark's trying to catch his breath. The camera pans over and, oh god, it gets worse. Harvey Whippleman's in bed with a fabulous moolah, and yeah, it's time to cut your dick off, Harvey. It'll never be the same again. I think I'm going to be sick.
Now that your daddy's gone, you walk around here thinking you are someone. But David Flair, you could have had it all. But the unfortunate truth is you suck big balls.
On Thunder this past week, David and Daphne needed some gas and they bumped into this guy right here. He says his name's Crowbar, which makes Double D laugh hysterically, like it's just meant to be or something. Crowbar helped David when some goons attacked him at the gas station, and for those who don't know, this is actually Devon Storm. The last time we saw Devon was on Raw back in November 97, but he's also competed on Nitro earlier the same year. David was scheduled to team up with the Maestro to take on Vampiro and Evan Courageous, while over on Raw we've got Kane versus Test. But as the Maestro was making his way down to the ring, Crowbar attacked him and he took his place as David's tag team partner. Now, also on Thunder, Evan Courageous began a new gimmick. He's part of a boy band named 3 Count along with Shannon Moore and Shane Helms. These heartthrobs sang their song Can't Get You Out of My Heart. The WWE Network completely butchers this by dubbing in a different song, which makes the lads lip syncing even worse than usual. So to get the full 3 Count experience, which I know you all really want to do, then look them up on YouTube. Anyway, Courageous gets attacked by his partner Vampiro because of course he does. Insane as David and Crowbar are on the same wavelength in regards to being absolutely batshit insane, they were able to win this matchup. Crowbar was good here, and I talked about Devon being a good in-ring talent way back in 96 and 97. This is a gimmick that gets him a little further than his previous stints in both WCW and the WWF. In the end, Shane Helms and Shannon Moore tried to interfere, but all they did was distract the referee. Vampiro gets whacked with a lead pipe, and David wins via pinfall. Unfortunately, we have another lethal lottery match in the semi-main event spot, so here, spoiler alert, Raw wins Reliving the War this week. After the match, 3 Count want to perform their new song, and look at David Flair. What a guy. The boys get taken out, Daphne and David share a kiss, and then Lodi, Lenny Lane and Stacy Keebler get in the ring. Stacy's now known as Miss Hancock. This is Standards and Practices, a new team that oppose anything questionable on WCW television in regards to mature content. Basically, it's the right to censor before the right to censor was even dreamt up by Vince McMahon, but they get taken out easily by David and Crowbar. Man, pro wrestling companies really don't like external groups trying to tell them what to do they? In fairness though, WCW were getting hit hard by Turner Standards and Practices, which was internal. So yeah, Vince Russo's little way of fighting back, I guess. On Raw, Test comes out and he tells Kane to give his missus a Prozac because Andy didn't do anything earlier to make her act this way. He also says he'll still fight Kane and he won't back down. So the match begins with Kane wrecking Test in the corner while Tori watches on. Just what Tori's game is, we have no idea, but clearly she's playing Kane for a fool. Test can't get started here. Kane's all over Big Andy for most of the match, and even when Test fights back with a swinging neckbreaker, Kane just sits right back up. When the fight goes to the outside, Kane gets thrown into the ring post. Test then asks Tori what the hell she's playing at, but Kane hits his opponent with the ring steps. Kane then shoves the referee, he gets himself disqualified, and the match ends with Test taking a tombstone piledriver and Tori comes in to slap Test around a bit. I'm really not sure what else they can do to make Test look bad, and it's gotten to a point where the general perception of Test is now negatively affected. He looks like a total loser no matter what situation he finds himself in. The final Lethal Lottery match on Nitro saw Disco Inferno teaming up with Big Vito to take on Buff Bagwell in Champagne Canyon. Chris ended up leaving his partner due to Tony Marinara and Johnny the Bull chatting up his women, but still Bagwell won the match when Disco accidentally hit Vito with a chain wrapped around his fist. Bagwell wins after taking Vito out with a blockbuster, and this dreadful tournament continues on. Disco and the family attack Buff after the bell, so I guess Disco's now doing whatever young Antonio tells him to do. Welcome to the family, Disco Inferno. On Raw, a tag team match took place in the semi-main event, the Outlaws vs Too Cool. Grandmaster Sexay had the match won after a top rope leg drop to Road Dogg, but X-Pac interfered with an X-Factor and the Outlaws won via pinfall. After the bell, Rikishi delivered a Rikishi driver to Road Dogg and a belly-to-belly to X-Pac, but the Outlaws saved Pac from a Banzai drop before Too Cool had a little dance inside the ring. I would have covered both these tag team matches in depth, but there's nothing more to say really. I'd just be listing off wrestling moves. The Nitro main event this week features a 2-on-1 match, Kevin Nash versus The Wall and Sid. On Raw, Triple H gets his WWF title shot against The Big Show. Scott Hall still hasn't made an appearance, even though Kev called Scott just a few moments ago. Big Sexy comes to the ring and he wants the higher-ups to give Scott another few minutes, but The Wall and Sid make their way down to the ring. So Kev's going to face both these guys without the bad guy by his side. A big corner clothesline from The Wall gets followed up with a rough looking back suplex. The Wall shows Big Kev what corner offense is all about, and look, a big boot. It's like Kevin's wrestling himself here. Bret lends a hand from the outside, giving Nash the opportunity to hit a big boot of his own. Double J gets in a few cheap shots from the outside, but when the match resumes, Wall locks in a sleeper that Nash easily escapes. Nash taunts Sid. Sid gets in the ring and the referee gets thrown out. The NWO then jump inside the ropes and that's our match over. Kev's able to hit the wall with his baseball bat while the referee's down. Bret revives Johnny Boone and Big Sexy wins via pinfall. After the bell, Nash goes to powerbomb Sid, but Chris Benoit runs down for the save. Scotty Steiner then makes his way down to the ring holding a baseball bat, and I can smell it, bro. I can smell the swerve coming a mile off. Double J gets chokeslammed by Sid. Steiner gets in the ring to fend off Nash, and just as Sid's about to powerbomb Jarrett, Steiner hits him with his baseball bat. Scott Steiner is part of the NWO, so he totally lied earlier on about his career-ending injury. So that Scott that Kev was calling earlier on, it wasn't Scott Hall, it was Scott Steiner. NWO propaganda falls from the ceiling as the NWO music plays to close out Nitro, but the band has one more thing they want to do. They put Sid in his vandalized Cadillac. Nash jumps on the hood while giving the Queen's wave to fans in attendance. The car gets brought to the empty half of the Astrodome, and the NWO tell Bret to go get in that monster truck from earlier on. Nitro fades out just after Bret runs over Sid's car with Sid still inside, so yeah, looks like attempted murder to me, guys. Also, I should point out that Sid was supposed to be knocked out cold in the car, yet he opened the door just before the cameras cut over to the monster truck. Kinda ruined the bit a little, but still. The NWO are back to dominating Nitro. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Okay, the last Raw main event of the millennium. You've made it to the end of the year, soldier, and you've got one more match to go. The Game takes on the Big Show for the WWF title. Triple H informs Big Show that this is now a no DQ match while telling DX to stay on the entranceway. Hunter wouldn't want any interference, you know. Hunter lights Show up in the corner, but he fails when trying an Irish whip. Triple H gets bailed from one side of the ring to the other before getting sent over the top rope, and the guys then fight in the audience and around the outside as DX watch on from the entranceway. Big Show gets sent into the ring post. He gets his head knocked off the commentary table, though when the two get back in the ring, the Big Show begins no-selling and Triple H takes a few headbutts followed by a standing sidekick. Big Show goes for a middle rope elbow drop, but he misses his target. Billy Gunn gives the WWF champion a polite round of applause as Hunter begins laying the boots in. And then the referee gets taken out, which allows DX to hit the ring. I'll never understand why referees need to get knocked out in no DQ matches. Billy Gunn smacks Big Show with the WWF belt. The referee gets put in the ring. 1, 2, kick out before 3. Hunter then breaks some sort of record for calling the next move as loud as humanly possible. And after taking out DX, Big Show performs a power slam. Billy Gunn pulled Show out of the ring before he can win via pinfall. DX attacked the champion as Stephanie begins making her way down to the ring. And as the Big Show starts destroying each and every member of DX inside the ring, Little Miss McMahon passes a chair to her husband. Show takes a shot right to the head. Hunter has it won and all he needs to do is pedigree the champ. But Mick Foley appears and Hunter gets a taste of his own medicine. Triple H takes a chair shot across the back. Big Show delivers a chokeslam and the champion retains the gold. The McMahon-Helmsley era's perfect plan doesn't come to fruition tonight as Triple H leaves Raw without the WWF Championship. Raw wins Reliving the War this week. The Lethal Lottery stuff on Nitro was abysmal, and it's incredible how a match series that sells itself on being so random ends up being so repetitive. Scotty Steiner's promo was good for sure, the monster truck spot was alright, but Raw was just better, plain and simple. In the TV ratings, Raw scored a 5.8, Nitro dropped down to a 2.9. Next week, we begin the year 2000 and the WWF kicks off Raw with The Rock calling out D-Generation X. Kurt Angle faces his biggest challenge to date when he faces Kane, and the Big Show has to defend his WWF title once again against Triple H. On Nitro, the company has unfortunately committed to this Lethal Lottery tournament, so we'll see more tag team matches. We're also going to see non-Sting in action in a one-on-one match. Plus, WCW announced a new president, someone you know very well and someone WCW hopes will fix all the problems this company has. Nitro goes back to 2 hours next week, folks, so we can go straight into the head-to-heads from this point on. Reliving the War episodes will now likely have a shorter runtime too, but I'll see how it pans out next week. Thank you for joining me throughout all of 1999, everyone. It feels good to start another new year in Reliving the War, and we've still got quite a journey ahead of us until the end of the series. Till next time, please take care.
Now that your daddy's gone, you walk around here thinking you are someone. But David Flair, you could have had it all. But the unfortunate truth is you suck big balls. Never had hits and you always miss. It's more fun taking a shit or a piss. Can't really see you going all that far. So you should really take a seat on that shiny crowbar. Your rosy red cheeks, your raccoon eyes. I'd say Dave is awesome, but that's a fucking lie. Stalking innocent women and giving them a scare. Bringing shame to the name of Nature Boy Flair. Sucking loads of balls, but he thinks he's a dope. When you're on TV, I wanna grab a remote. David, it's really kinda sad, because you'll never be as great as your legendary